But we'll talk about Black Sea first of all, including comments about the accent, but first of all, the movie.
I think it's fascinating that when Kevin MacDonald in that interview said that they looked towards Sorcerer as a touchstone, and I think actually that's a way of understanding the film, because Sorcerer is about desperate men in desperate straits working with these grinding machines that they're sort of trapped in these trucks, and they're doing there's one thing that they have to do in order. I remember the tagline for it was 4 men willing to risk their lives to escape a life in hell or something. And as far as this is concerned, firstly, I think the backstory works rather well. The fact that you do have this kind of socio-economic story behind, which is about redundancy and about companies, laying people off. And so you are given context for the desperation. I think also once you get inside the sub, they do a brilliant job of trapping you in there. I mean, all that stuff about people living within a machine that somehow people have kind of forgotten to make spaces for. For people say you are, sleeping on top of pipes. You're there with the engine room and clanging and pistons and, great big sort of pipes making these really awful claustrophobic noises. One of the things you have to have with a submarine film is that you have to give the audience that sense of being trapped. I mean, I have to say I am slightly claustrophobic anyway, but I always admire any movie that manages to make me feel slightly edgy about it. So I thought they did that very well. I mean, Kevin MacDonald directs with this sort of stripped down ruthlessness, and it works rather well. I also think that the cast give spirited performances, and I like the idea that actually once they're inside the sub, the biggest danger to them isn't necessarily everything that's going on outside, but is the interpersonal relations. The fact that what you're worrying is, firstly, will they manage to get to where they're going? Will they find the treasure? And will they tear each other apart before they manage to find the treasure? Which, of course, I mean, we talked about Treasure of the Sierra Madre in that interview, and that is the thing which kind of hangs behind all of this, I think more so than, for example, Das Boot or Crimson Tide, which you think of as the sort of classic submariner flicks. So I like all of those things about it. So I think as a grueling kind of genre exercise, it worked rather well. I don't know that it has the depths of, no pun intended, of some of the other movies that it references. I don't know that, for example, it is about more than it appears to be, with the exception of the fact that it has that definite sort of socio-economic underpinning. So as I was watching it, I was thinking this is a really good, stripped down, well done thriller. I have to confess that I was distracted by Jude Law's accent. And that doesn't necessarily mean because, you said in that interview to my London ear, and I mean, I grew up in North London. And as we all know from my many impressions over the years on this show, I have a total tin ear for accents. I think what slightly troubled me more was just that I was aware of the fact that Jude Law was doing an accent. And you said to me, well, does that mean he wasn't doing it very well, or is it just that you were aware of it being a performance?
Well, because you know how he talks normally.
Possibly it's to do with it. Something about it I found distracting. And to be honest with you, I would have felt easier if he'd just gone with his own natural, Southern English tones. It would have sat easier on me. However, it didn't put me off enough to bother my enjoyment of the film. I found it claustrophobic. I found it gripping. Some of the set pieces are really good. The sort of slow crawl along the ocean floor is done very well. There's a really sort of good set piece there, which is, it's not really an action movie, but it's as close as it comes to an action set piece when they're trying to sort of, get from A to B, and there are all these sort of precipitous bits that they have to climb over. There's also a very, very tense standoff in the engine room, in which you're really conscious of the fact that nobody can move more than like a couple of inches before there's something above their head. So you get this sense of people trapped in a pressure cooker environment. So I thought it was a really good, solid, well-executed genre piece. Not particularly deep, perhaps, but certainly whilst you're watching it, you are there and trapped in the sub with the guys.